I was minding my own business. I was 31 years old, and I finally felt content with myself and my life. I loved my apartment, my little pad in Lincoln Square. I loved my job. I was fundraising and teaching as adjunct faculty. And my life outside of work was equally fulfilling. I was performing in small theaters all around Chicago. I was also completely at peace with my romantic status, which was single. The infamous biological clock ticking thing did not apply to me. I just wasn't feeling that. I felt deep down that whether or not I had a life partner, my life was going to be complete. I had fulfilling friendships in my life. I adored my family. I just felt really content inside. So again, minding my own business. And who walks in? Thomas Adam Lund. Oh, boy. I mean, I had my life under control. I was good. And then someone decides to set us up on a blind date, and I say yes. 3 months later, I am frantically calling a counselor. I didn't know anyone. I got a referral from a friend, and I got through the niceties, the introductions, and finally I got to tell her what was going on and why I was there. I said, frantically, I can't stop eating. I am just eating anything that's not nailed to the floor, especially chocolate. She said, okay, Cindy, why don't you tell me what's going on? Well, I met this man, and I am in love, and I am freaking out. She said, well, why do you think you're freaking out? I said, I don't know. I feel so out of control. I mean, I used to have my prayer and meditation time. I, had my volunteering over here. I was preparing for my classes way more than I am now. And now I'm staying up late because I want to be with Tom. I'm oversleeping. I'm not exercising. I am blowing off my friends. I mean, I am just out of control. She said, well, if out of control were a feeling, what do you think it would be? I said, I'm scared. Scared of what? Well, I'm scared of being hurt. Well, how do you think you'd be hurt? How would you get hurt? Well, he might not love me, or I might stop loving him, or then there's hurt and pain and loss. I guess I just feel so vulnerable. That right there, vulnerable. When we are vulnerable, chances are we are on the precipice of change and transformation. Our gospel describes Peter, James, and John walking up a mountain with Jesus, not knowing where they were being taken. I mean, can you say vulnerable? It was just the four of them. It was a big mountain. It was probably hot. They were tired. And then to boot, bam, dazzling white lights, bright lights, Elijah, Moses, and don't forget the voice. This is my son, the beloved. Listen to him. The texts say they were terrified. Yeah, they were. Terrified and completely vulnerable. Why? Well, first off, again, they were on a mountain. And second, in the Bible, a mountain is often the backdrop where someone is consulting God about something really important. In fact, it's no coincidence that in the dazzling white lights, Peter, James, and John also see Moses and Elijah. Well, they themselves had conducted much of their God business on a mountaintop. And let's just talk about what it might be like for those dazzling white lights. Let's just relish for a moment that imagery. What was going on with Jesus, truly alive with God's Spirit within him. One of my favorite theologians, Jack Shea, says that this scene, the Spirit of God in Jesus, well, it, quote, permeates Jesus entirely. It radiates in his face and turns his clothes dazzlingly white. In other words, it moves through his body and garments. That is love with a capital L. Peter, James, and John are bearing witness to the love and power of God made manifest in Jesus on this mountaintop, the divine and the human in one. Terrified? Vulnerable? Yes. And they were transformed. As Christians, we too are invited to be transformed by the love of God. In order to get there, we may need to open ourselves up to it, to be vulnerable. We don't know when the opportunities are going to present themselves. Peter, James, and John probably didn't know. But guess what? They had to keep walking forward, moving forward up the mountain, all the while being fearful. But somehow they surrendered to that moment and to their belief that God had their back, no matter how scary. And afterwards, they were transformed with a deeper belief in a loving God that far surpassed their imagination. They emerged from the Transfiguration with a greater depth of their being. Think of all the moments in your life that are guideposts that precipitated major changes, for better or worse, and thus transformed your life for better or worse. Falling in love, the death of a loved one, divorce, graduation, a promotion, job loss, coming out. How about a pandemic? How about political unrest? How do we utilize these moments to be transformed? Well, our readings, these ancient texts from over 2,000 years ago, show us how. It's by moving forward even when we're scared and we don't know what's next, like our disciples. It's being committed to being curious about what the truth holds. Staying the course with tenacity, like Elisha in our Kings 2 reading. Finding time for silence to hear the voice of God. Listening with an open heart and an open mind to our friends, to our neighbors, to those that might not look like us or act like us or politic like us. And last, like our Corinthians 2 reading, courageously standing up for what is right in a world that often values power and status. Let's be clear, this isn't an easy path to open ourselves up to transformation. Often these guideposts are tricky events in our life. Well, look at me as I was white-knuckling my way through the first part of my relationship with Tom. At some point, though, I surrendered. I allowed the love of God to support me, which allowed more depth, more feeling, more sacredness to come into my life. It is so hard to surrender to the unknowing. When will this pandemic end? It is so hard to be vulnerable. I feel lonely or lost. It is so tricky to have humility. I might not be right about this. Not easy, but so worth it. Because the reward for opening ourselves up is transformation. That's the bonus. So the surrendering and allowing the feelings from sadness to rage to joy and to let go of our false sense of control, we can. Yes, we can, someone once said. Because when we gather today at home and here, we're gathering because we are proclaiming that something wider, bigger, and broader is holding us up. It's God. And we are going to be okay. Deep down, we can know that things are going to unfold and it's going to be okay. In fact, not only will it be okay, it's going to be better than okay because we have the potential to be transformed and forever changed. My friends, it's Valentine's Day. And so today we get the free pass to eat as much chocolate as we want. Woohoo! Yeah! 16 years ago, though, I was taking down some chocolate without the excuse of Valentine's Day. I was a wreck. I was scared. But when I stopped white-knuckling it, the love I was experiencing transformed me and my life. Just like being transformed with the other events, like cancer for me, loss, big things transforming. The Christ story shows us over and over again that vulnerability reigns. It is strength. It is a strength to be vulnerable, not a weakness. Jesus lived his most authentic life standing up for what he believed in, not giving in to bravado or power or ego. Instead, showing us a path of nonviolence, honesty, justice, and love. In fact, he died living this life. And he rose, showing us that Christ's path of love lasts forever. Can you allow yourself to be transformed by the love of God? Can you lay it all down and then let go? One step at a time. Yes. Climbing up that mountain. God's got you. You are God's beloved. And that makes for an awesome, happy Valentine's Day. Yes, it does.